Most people in the Middle Ages never reached old age. Not because they were careless, not because they were foolish, not because they lived recklessly, but because the world around them did not allow long lives. From the very first breath, survival was uncertain. Birth was dangerous. Childbirth killed countless women. Without sterile tools, medical knowledge, or pain control, even a normal delivery could turn fatal in minutes. Many infants never survived their first days. Others died within weeks. Some lived a few years and then disappeared quietly from history, never recorded, never remembered beyond their families. Early childhood was the most dangerous stage of life. Disease spread easily. Nutrition was limited. Cold weakened fragile bodies. A single bad winter could erase an entire generation of children. Those who survived childhood were already considered fortunate. They had passed the first and most brutal test of medieval life. But survival did not mean safety. As children grew older, new dangers appeared. They worked early. They lifted heavy loads. They walked long distances. Their bodies were strained before they were fully grown. Childhood ended quickly. Responsibility arrived early. There was little difference between a teenager and an adult. Injuries were common. Cuts, broken bones, and infections followed daily labor. There was no guarantee of healing. Some injuries never healed at all, leaving permanent weakness or pain. Illness followed people everywhere. Fevers arrived without warning. Coughs turned into slow deaths. There were no antibiotics, no vaccines, no understanding of infection. A simple wound could rot. A toothache could spread into the skull. Blood poisoning was invisible and unstoppable. Plagues were a constant shadow. Some years they came quietly. Other years they tore through entire regions. The Black Death was the most famous, but it was not unique. Smaller outbreaks returned again and again, weakening populations long before major disasters struck. People lived knowing sickness could arrive tomorrow or tonight. This constant uncertainty shaped how people thought about life. Plans were short-term. Hope was fragile. The future was never guaranteed. War was not the main killer, but it magnified everything else. Armies destroyed crops. Soldiers carried disease. Villages were burned and abandoned. Even those who survived war were left weaker, poorer, and more vulnerable than before. Recovery was slow and sometimes impossible. Daily life itself damaged the body. Most people worked physically from sunrise to sunset. Farming broke backs and joints. Hands cracked and bled. Muscles never fully recovered. Pain accumulated year after year. There was no retirement, no true rest. The body simply endured until it failed. Food kept people alive, but barely. Bread and grain dominated the diet. Protein was limited. Fresh food depended on the season. Malnutrition weakened immune systems. Famine left permanent damage. Even after food returned, the body remained fragile, more vulnerable than before. Water was another silent killer. Clean sources were rare. Rivers carried waste and disease. Illness spread through drinking and washing alike. Cities were especially deadly. Crowded homes, narrow streets, poor ventilation. Sickness moved faster than people could escape. Once sickness appeared, there was often nowhere to run. Medical care offered little hope. Doctors followed ancient theories. Bloodletting was common. Treatments often worsened conditions. Many people avoided doctors entirely, fearing the cure as much as the disease. Pain was expected. Death was accepted. Religion shaped how people understood aging and death. Life was temporary. The body was weak. Suffering had meaning. The afterlife mattered more than longevity. Few people planned for old age. Most did not expect to reach it. Reaching 40 was respectable. Reaching 50 was rare. Reaching 60 was extraordinary. Old age was not defined by numbers, it was defined by the body. Gray hair, missing teeth, bent posture, slow movement. Someone in their 40s could already be considered old, worn down by decades of hardship. Elders were respected, but they were few. Villages were full of children. They were full of young adults. They were full of graves. But grandparents were rare. Those who reached old age had survived repeated loss. They had buried children. They had buried spouses. They had watched neighbors disappear. Their survival was not luck alone. It was endurance built over decades of struggle. Looking back, medieval life seems brutally short. But every year survived was a victory. Every decade lived was an achievement. In a world without medicine, sanitation, or security, most lives burned fast and ended early. And those who lived long enough to grow old were not ordinary people. They were survivors of a world that tested the human body and spirit from birth until the very end.